We're not out there half-stepping. It's going to go fast. That's probably the biggest lesson I can tell you by experience. It is going to go fast. So be locked in.
Hey there, welcome to the Recruiting Masters Podcast, episode 23, brought to you by the CFC Insider. I'm Katie Burt, content manager for CanadaFootballChat.com, alongside Clint, Uttley, lead analyst and head of the CFC Scouting Bureau and former youth sports head coach. Hey Clint, how are you?
I'm good, Katie. How are you doing?
I'm good. So the high school season has finished. St. Thomas More in Hamilton, Ontario remains number one in the CFC 50 National High School Rankings. And new this year, we did the CFC 25 Small School Rankings across Canada, which is a little bit misleading, the name. It basically is the schools that didn't qualify or meet the criteria of the CFC 50. I know we had a few people write into us and ask us about that whole small school title. So, Clint, what did you think of the season?
You know, just watching, I didn't get to see games in every province, but it was kind of like a bit of, it seemed to be more competitive in some provinces, like the juvies in Quebec seemed to be quite competitive. And there's even a couple upsets towards the end. And the Maritimes, like, no change. You have two dominant programs who seem to kind of either be in the final or win the final. I think, what did you say, Citadel just, what was it?
Since 2008, they've won the title, except for 1 year where Sir John A. won it.
Yeah, so it was like no change out east. Quebec was uber competitive, which is essentially no change. Ontario, the teams like, you know, STM continues to do their thing, and Huron Heights seems to do their thing, and it seems to be a hotbed for football in London. Everybody, make sure you rent a house in London and go recruiting there. And like no change at all. And then it seemed like things got back to normal in Manitoba with St. Paul's kind of making a run, which is not surprising when you think of the ridiculous amount of talent they have on the defensive side of the ball. And they finally gave T. Jesse an opportunity to play quarterback, which if you look at his stats online, he had a really good year. On top of that, he looks like an NFL fullback. And then moving your way out, Alberta was Alberta. There's just so much football going on in Alberta. Not only did they have teams in our CFC 50 at the top, they pretty much dominated the CFC small school ranking, as you referred to it. And then out on the West Coast, you know, you had Vancouver College, but for one hiccup, which was their season opener at South Delta, pretty much ran the table. So the same old programs doing the same old things, a couple of different situations where the old dominant power got back to the way things used to be. So, yeah. So for me, situation, no change.
Well, and I mentioned the number one spot was St. Thomas More for the CFC 50, and the Holy Trinity Academy in Okotoks was the number one spot for the first time for this year. And like you said, there were a number of Alberta teams on that ranking. But the Oxa Bowl, you know, I would have liked to have seen a Huron Heights versus STM bowl game. That, I think, would have been competitive because I remember seeing online one of the other, the Ontario guys that record the scores, they said that, I believe that there was only one basically competitive game, and sorry guys if I'm misquoting you, and there were four that were just lopsided, like runaway games. So I think they might need to look at how they seed those teams a bit better, but it would be really difficult, I think, to do that.
Oh, yeah. And I think we all thought that Herman was going to do better against STM. But, I mean, having that game, Herman versus STM, or any of those three, just from evaluating from afar, I thought those are the top teams in that entire bowl series, we'll call it. I mean, Huron Heights, after the fact, maybe would have given STM more of a game than Herman did, but you also got to remember that Herman beat some really good teams in the Windsor area.
They did, yeah.
And they did not just beat them, like they beat them up. Yeah. So, I mean, and Herman always has athletes, and they always got good coaching, and you can see their offense has kind of evolved a little bit. They're throwing the ball around the park with a really tall quarterback. So, I mean, but yeah, no, I didn't see too much different.
It's Cody Briggs, is it not?
I think it's Briggs. I know that much.
6'5" or 6'4".
Yeah, he's a tall drink of water. So it was interesting to see, and it's kind of interesting to see how the different programs evolve. Some teams will run through their cycle and they'll have to cycle back up and around, and then some teams seem to have the ability in high school to reload, and then there's other teams that have the ability to go outside of their catchment, or they don't have a catchment, and they can bring kids in from all over the surrounding area to kind of help them do their thing. So it's interesting. It's my impression was the strong get stronger as we kind of move our way through this thing, or we move forward, and it becomes more and more of a chore, I think, for people to really fill out their rosters. So if you're not developing a JV program, or if you don't develop the feeder systems into your high school program, you may be in trouble down the road. So
with that being said, this episode we're gonna talk a little bit about the All Canadians that we're gonna start with the nomination process here this week, and then that list or those teams will come out right before Christmas. Go over our event schedule again, and then we're gonna talk about a few of the kids that we've seen on the registrations for the Brampton and Burlington Combine that's happening this weekend, December 8th on Sunday. Clint is actually going to be there running that combine along with members of the Scouting Bureau. And so then we're going to finish off with that guy. So Clint, the CFC All-Canadian nominations, it's a first and second team. The criteria include any player who's on track to qualify as a national in the CFL draft and have played their high school football geographically inside of Canada. So sorry guys, those of you who are playing in your prep schools, this eliminates you. We know you're great players, but this is just for the Canadian kids playing their high school football in Canada. So if you think you deserve to be nominated, you can go on CanadaFootballChat.com and click the nominations tab under the recruiting menu at the top on CanadaFootballChat.com's homepage. Then when you're in that form, you just click the CFC All-Canadian nomination that you are trying to submit for, and our Scouting Bureau will review all submissions. So Clint, the process for the All-Canadians, that's a pretty big task.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing everybody has to understand is the CFC All-Canadian teams will be driven by stats and nominations. So this is not the 100, this is not the 150, this is...
Not to say that you couldn't be a ranked player on there.
Yeah, if you were a ranked player and you had a ridiculous season...
And you sent us your stats.
Backed by your stats, official stats... So I mean, we put a lot of merit into like the different leagues. Like the RCQ is easy to follow. Ontario, we really have to really hunt it down. Manitoba is really good. Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatoon, parts of Alberta are good. BC's quite easy.
Pretty dialed in, yeah.
So there's most of the provinces are dialed in. So these players who make that first and second team, this is driven by stats. So it's like, you were nominated, we followed up, we found your stats. So just so everybody understands, like somebody who's not on one of our lists, if they ran for 1,700 yards and there's a CFC 100 in their conference who ran for 900 yards, even though the CFC 100 might be the better prospect, the person who had the outstanding season is going to get the nod. And that's the way that's going to work. So this is driven by single season stats, and this is driven by the year you just had. So it's not a prospect list. It's not influenced by combine scores. And you know what? A 5'6" running back who weighs 160 pounds who ran for 1,800 yards is going to get the nod over.
And there's been a couple of them.
Yeah, and going to get the nod over like a CFC, say a CFC 100 who's in the top 40 or 30. So just so you understand how that works. And quite often when we go through the All-Canadian evaluating all those stats and all those nominations, there's players who, twofold, there's players who we just never seen, but now we've seen them, so now we evaluate them and they go on the list. Then there's the ones who drive us crazy, which are the ones who committed last year and then decided to
post-grad,
decommit, post-grad, go back to their school,
and not tell us,
but not tell anybody. And then obviously the school they decommitted from doesn't say anything because it may be not the best case scenario for them, or they're essentially trying to hide the kid for another year, which is totally understandable. But yeah, there's two kinds: the ones we've never seen, and then there's the ones who seem to like put themselves in a position where they've told the entire world they've committed to a school, then they decommit, and then they end up back at their school. And then essentially we had somebody who was like in the CFC 100 who we thought
in the top 50.
Yeah, who we thought was in their freshman year at, say, whatever OUA school, and now all of a sudden we figure out that they finally announced, they announced their final roster for the OFSA Bowls, and we're like, oh, there he is. So, but CFC All Canadians, you don't have to be a 100, 150, or 200. You just have to have had an awesome season backed up by stats.
So if you're wondering what these CFC 100, 150, 200 is, that's the player class rankings, and you can find that on CanadaFootballChat.com under the rankings tab, and then you can look at all the different. So let's just go over the CFC event schedule like I was just getting into. So this weekend, Sunday, December 8th, they're in Burlington and Brampton. Friday, December 13th, we're going to be in Calgary. Saturday, December 14th, we will be in Edmonton. And then we have the Christmas break. So these combines will be capped. There is a few spots left. So if you're wanting to get in there, you want us to see you, you're going to have to register pretty quick because we will be closing those doors pretty soon. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter @ChatFootball, Instagram CFC_football, and YouTube. You can hit the subscribe button on your YouTube channel so that we can open up those features that come with increased subscriptions. And don't forget to sign up for your CFC Insider membership today. Just hit the subscribe button for access to rankings, analysis, and daily football recruiting news across Canada. So Clint, you are headed off to Ontario this weekend with other members of the Scouting Bureau. You had a chance to kind of look through the registrations. Let's just start right off with Matt Gannett. He's a quarterback out of Holy Names. He's a 2021 kid. He's 6 foot, 160 pounds. He comes from one of the top programs in the Windsor area. We've been following Matt pretty much since the beginning of his high school career. So he comes from a football family, and we're curious to see how he's developed this over this last year. What do you have to say about Matt?
Yeah, you know what? I've seen a little bit of film, not a lot of film. We noticed him like 2 years ago. He jumped out. He goes to a good program, so he gets good coaching. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops. That's the really interesting thing about some of the younger players that we get to see through like the 3 and 4 year evolution. Just exactly how far they've come in a single year, you know, how things are shaping up. Did they grow a little bit? Did they get a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit stronger? So, yeah, he would definitely fall into that category. So it'll be interesting to see how he's come along over the last year.
And then we've got Miguel Camboya. He's a 2022 quarterback, sticking with the quarterbacks, out of Huron Park, I believe. He's 5'11 and a half, 170 pounds. He's a few years away, still a young kid. However, we've seen some film on him. He's demonstrated that he's a pretty solid arm, makes quick decisions, and he also has a pretty good work ethic. What I like about him is that he definitely, again, comes from a football family. As one coach put it to me, you know, they look for the convicted players, not just the committed players. So I would put him into one of these categories.
Yeah, he's everywhere doing everything. So, I mean, for him, it's not a lack of effort. I mean, this kid goes to camps and combines, and he seems to be on the trail every weekend as he goes down to the States. So, yeah, I mean, he's putting himself out there, which is super important.
And we realize not everybody can do that.
Yeah, I'll get that. But, like, he's making the effort. So, and then I've seen him throw the ball around last year. He does have some arm strength, and you can tell that he's got the moxie and the competitive nature that you're looking for in a quarterback. And he also seemed to digest things quickly. Interesting to see. I mean, obviously, he's going to have to demonstrate he's got all those other intangibles, and then hopefully, just like him and a lot of the young quarterbacks we see, hopefully they kind of steal a few inches from here or there as they go through grade 10 and 11 and 12 and so on and so forth. At this point, yeah, he seems to be going all over the place, doing everything, so good for him. And then the time I have seen him in person, he's done nothing but, you know, demonstrated that he's got some solid intangibles that would make him a legitimate prospect moving forward.
And then you've got on here running back, 2021 kid, Kean Vokes. You know, we've seen, again, watched a little bit of film. I'd be interested to see if he's as fast in person as he looks on film. He is 5'6", 165 pounds, but that doesn't seem to faze you. Why is that?
No, it's just because he's younger, right? A lot of these kids are younger, so they're like, they got this year and next year, you know. So I mean, he goes to another legitimate program, which is Holy Names, and you kind of get a pretty good idea of who's who in the different cities and high schools, because a lot of the better kids in these different areas, they'll end up at the power programs in their region, right? So when you kind of see that, and then you kind of see something that causes them to jump out on film, that usually catches our eye. He had a film, I think he might have been his grade 9 film, JV film anyways, caught us a couple times with a couple of the plays. So yeah, that's why we when we were going down the list and looking at things, we actually took a peek, recognized the name. So yeah.
And then we have another really young kid, 2023 tight end, Brody Katalik, out of Bell River High School, plays for the Essex Raisins, 6'1", 173 pounds. Seems to be an all-around athlete. Has a pretty good feel for the game. I would just say he just looks like a solid football player.
He looks like a solid athlete and a solid football player. The fact that he's 2023 and he's as active as he is on social media is actually quite impressive. So I mean, he's always pushing something out, which is cool in the sense that you can see he's a multi-sport athlete, and he's getting out and he's getting around and he's, you know, doing everything he needs to. A lot of young kids don't do that. It'll be interesting to see how his body develops over the next few years. Is he gonna be a receiver, a tight end? What is he actually going to evolve into? But right now, yeah, you're right. He's a really good football player, and that Essex Ravens program, they do a really good job of getting the better players in and around the surrounding area. So I mean, you know what? It's a pretty good jump-off point for a lot of people if you're looking to who's who of the younger football generation in the Windsor area. That's one place you can look, is those legitimate, like, summer teams.
Community teams, yeah.
Well, whether it's London or Kingston or Essex or Ottawa, Cumberland, you know, all of it. So, I mean, those guys do a really good job, and a lot of the better younger players seem to play that summer league.
And then we've got Michael Zach. He's a 2022 prospect, offensive tackle out of St. Andrews College. He's 6'3", 230 pounds. I actually saw his film come across our desk and put him into our bullpen to pass on to our scouting bureau. I was pretty impressed with him.
Yeah, and like when I watched the film, I assumed that it was him playing senior, and then I saw his grad year was 2022. And then you're like, oh, he's already 6'3", 230 pounds, and he did some really nice things on film. You know, and you know he's probably going to, most likely, coming out of SAC, he's going to be a student athlete, so that's not going to be an issue. So, yeah, he just seemed like he had a solid frame. He seemed like he was a younger guy, but he was hanging tough and actually getting into people and moving people around at the varsity level, even though he's a JV kid. So, yeah, he impressed that way.
And then we've got a defensive end. I've heard this kid's name a couple times, Silas Hubert, 2021, out of Norwood District. He's 6'5", 260 pounds, and that's probably one reason that I recognize his name. We always kind of, those measurables stick out to us right away. He has a solid frame, and what can you say more than that other than he's big, you can't teach size. He has also attended some of our combines, and so we've seen some stuff with him in the past.
Yeah, he flashed a couple times last year at the actual tryouts, the CFC prospect game tryouts, even though he was a year young. It was a pretty competitive group that went through last year, so he was right on the bubble last year. Yeah. And you're right, 6'5", 260 pounds. I mean, in the CFC Scouting Bureau, we are height snobs, so not to like dissuade anybody or deter anybody, but like there's a lot of in today's world, measurables count for a lot. So, like in say Silas's case, you know, a 6'5", 260 is going to get you a leg up. So, yeah, we are. And when I said height snobs, I didn't mean that in the sense of. But if you're long and you're athletic and you're tall, well, those are things that can't be taught and or coached. So that's a bonus for you if you actually have those traits. And
then we've got Brady Ioannidis, who I hope that I pronounced that correctly. He's a 2022 linebacker out of Resurrection, 6'2", 205 pounds. He looks like a long, rangy athlete who can find the ball. He does a pretty good job of getting off blocks, and I thought he used his hands well.
Yeah, he looked like he was a little taller and longer, and he obviously has to develop like some things like short area quickness, so on and so forth. But like he was rangy, but he kind of seemed like he was galloping, like it was long strides and like you just gotta kind of get that kind of dialed in. But you could see there was some instincts there, and like class of 2022, and he's 6'2", 205 pounds. So I mean that would get him a leg up. That would definitely appease the height snobs in the scouting bureau.
Well, especially you and your linebackers.
Yeah. So I mean, linebackers. So he's literally like 2-3 years out. So I mean, by the time he hits the end of his career, work on your hip flexibility and your short area quickness there, Brady, and no doubt you'll be a legit prospect as you kind of move your way through your high school career.
And then we have Cam Gurung, who he's kind of actually been on and off of our ranked list. He's a linebacker, 2020, so senior from Sir Frederick Banting, 6'1", 218 pounds. He again has attended some of our combines. We have noticed him. He's pretty athletic, put together, and he can run. Yeah,
I mean, kind of the one thing with him is he kind of attends a smaller school, but yeah. If you watch his film, I haven't watched his updated film. I remember his film from last year because he was right on the bubble for making the TSN game. And I think he's going to be a legitimate university prospect as he makes his way, through this year and into his recruiting cycle. But yeah, his highlight film, so his junior highlight film, it was literally like one big play after another. So like usually you think linebacker highlight film and you're thinking like big hits, run stops, stuff like that. No, I'm talking about forced fumbles, scoop score, pick six, jump over a lineman and like blow up a running back, like that kind of stuff. And he is a legitimate linebacker from the perspective of height and weight and size, and he can run. So I mean, he was impressive for sure.
And just a few of the other names. Aiden Wilkins, he's a 2021 prospect defensive end from MM Robinson. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. Andrew Daly, a 2020 senior defensive end from Thorhold. He's 6'2", 235. Jerry Ann, he's a 2021 defensive end from Iroquois Ridge, 6'4", 255. We've got our eyes on him. Zach Beneto, 2021 defensive end from Riverside. A lot of defensive players on here.
Height snobs.
6'3", 235. Greg Johnson, another senior 2020 defensive tackle from Banting, 6'3", 274. And then Daniel Sudak, a 2021 offensive tackle from STM, 6'3", 247 pounds. So yeah, a few names that we pulled off the registrations, kind of caught our eye. We're looking to see more of them and see what they're all about. These tryouts, these open tryouts are for, like Clint said, the TSN game, and it's the CFC prospect game that's broadcast on TSN in June. And last year was the first year we did that. And you can go on CanadaFootballChat.com to check out that whole event. Is just amazing, phenomenal experience for these kids. So our last segment is Offer That Guy. And this is where Clint has picked out a prospect who either NCAA or U Sports that we just really want to pump their name. And they're a phenomenal athlete. They've got amazing traits. They've obviously got really great film. We've seen them in person, some of them. And so this week's Offer That Guy is no different, and just it's kind of a cherry on top. It's Jason Soriano from the Vancouver College group in Vancouver, BC. He's an athlete, 5'11", 180 pounds, and he just scored all 5 touchdowns for Vancouver College in the AAA provincial final this last weekend, and it was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, I've been telling people all year before he was named the MVP of the province that he was the best player in the province. So, just saying.
Just patting your own back there.
Oh, yeah, I am, because I don't lie. Anyways, I saw him come out a couple times as a Wildcat quarterback, and I was like, oh no, please don't play him at quarterback the entire game. And they didn't. So that means he only had 5 carries, which all went for first downs. But he had 5 touchdowns against Tweedsmuir. He probably could have scored more if they wanted to, if they had gotten him the ball a bit more. On top of that, he's also a legitimate special teams player. And
you said he was a track athlete?
He's a track athlete, but he also he's a legitimate safety. So I mean, and when he comes down and hits people, Like, he comes down in the alley and hits people. So I'm not sure why he doesn't have. I know he has a ton of U Sports offers. He'll start to heat up for him, but I don't understand it. And everybody can say, oh, he's only 5'11", 180 pounds. I'm sorry, but when you actually find 5'11", 180, he could probably. That's not too far out of the bubble. It's not. Like,
and especially when you can run like he does.
Yeah, like 5'11", 180, who cares? So he's going to be a 5'11", 200-pound safety? Okay, because that's different from half the NFL in what way? It's not. He is that good. So I'm not sure why he didn't. I'm not sure if he didn't go anywhere or if he didn't get his name out there or whatever the case may be. But he's that good. I honestly think he's that good. And he seems to, the fact that he played both ways, the thing that impresses me the most is that he's a track star. So generally in football, track stars, and if you're an experienced football coach and or recruiter, you know exactly what I mean when track guys play football. So this kid is a football player who runs track. So he is tough. He is a tough kid who runs fast. So I'm not sure why why would you want a tough kid who runs fast? So anyways, somebody needs to offer that kid. And I'm not saying anything outside of, he's got 10 U Sports offers, and he may very well pick one of them, and that'll be the best case scenario in the world. But I'm just saying, it's time for somebody to offer him.
So that's Jason Soriano out of Vancouver College. It's one of the CFC 50 teams there, the AAA provincial champs this year. So congratulations to them. So that's it for us today. Don't forget to register for the any of the CFC events that we spoke about, the CFC Prospect Game and the Fox 40 Prospect Challenge, which those dates are on Saturday, January 25th in Burlington from 6 to 8 p.m. Sunday, December 8th in Burnaby from 11 to 1. Sunday, January 12th in Victoria from 12 to 2. Sunday, January 19th in Prince George from 9 to 11. And Sunday, January 26th in Kelowna from 12 to 2 p.m. That is under the events tab on CanadaFootballChat.com. Just click the register now and you're on your way. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, @ChatFootball, Instagram, CFC_football, and YouTube. And don't forget to purchase your exclusive CFC Insider membership today for access to rankings, analysis, and daily football recruiting news across Canada. This has been another episode of the Recruiting Masters brought to you by the CFC Insider. Thanks, Clint.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone.